I got swallowed by a giant fish. Can you even imagine? 3 days, 3 whole days trapped inside. No sunlight, no fresh air, barely any food. Just me, my thoughts, and the endless sound of water sloshing around in that massive belly. And trust me, 3 days in there felt like a lifetime. How did I even end up there? It all started when God gave me a mission. And what did I do? I ran the other way. Spoiler alert, that did not go well.
Many years ago in the land of Israel, there lived a man named Jonah, son of Amittai. Jonah loved God, but he struggled with following God's plan. Now, the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying,
"Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry out against it, for their wickedness has come up before me."
But Jonah thought to himself,
Nineveh? Those people? I can't go there. I won't go there.
So Jonah arose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. But the Lord sent out a great wind on the sea, and there was a mighty tempest on the sea, so that the ship was about to be broken up.
"We're going to sink. The storm is too powerful."
"Pray to your gods. Maybe they will save us."
The sailors were afraid, and every man cried out to his God and threw the cargo that was in the ship into the sea to lighten the load. But Jonah had gone down into the lowest parts of the ship, had lain down, and was fast asleep. So the captain came to him and said to him,
"What do you mean, sleeper? Arise, call on your God. Perhaps your God will consider us, so that we may not perish."
And they said to one another,
"Come, let us cast lots, that we may know for whose cause this trouble has come upon us."
So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. Then they said to him,
"Please tell us, for whose cause is this trouble upon us? What is your occupation, and where do you come from? What is your country, and of what people are you?"
I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land.
Then the men were exceedingly afraid and said to him,
"Why have you done this?"
For the men knew that he fled from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them. Then they said to him,
"What shall we do to you, so that the sea may be calm for us?"
For the sea was growing more tempestuous. And he said to them,
Pick me up and throw me into the sea. Then the sea will become calm for you, for I know that this great tempest is because of me.
Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to return to land, but they could not, for the sea continued to grow more tempestuous against them. Therefore they cried out to the Lord and said,
"We pray, O Lord, please do not let us perish for this man's life, and do not charge us with innocent blood. For you, O Lord, have done as it pleased you."
So they picked up Jonah and threw him into the sea. And the sea ceased from its raging. Then the men feared the Lord exceedingly, and offered a sacrifice to the Lord and took vows.
"Truly, Jonah's God is mighty."
Jonah sank deeper and deeper into the ocean. Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. So Jonah prayed,
I was in very bad trouble. I called to the Lord for help and he answered me. I was deep in the grave. I cried to you, and you heard my voice. You threw me into the sea. Your powerful waves splashed over me. I went down, down into the deep sea. The water was all around me. Then I thought, now I must go where you cannot see me. But I continued looking to your holy temple for help. The seawater closed over me. The water covered my mouth and I could not breathe. I went down, down into the deep sea. Seaweed wrapped around my head. I was at the bottom of the sea, the place where the mountains begin. I thought I was locked in this prison forever, but the Lord my God took me out of my grave. God, you gave me life again. My soul gave up all hope, but then I remembered the Lord. I prayed to you, and you heard my prayers in your holy temple. Some people worship useless idols, but those statues never help them. I will give sacrifices to you, and I will praise and thank you. I will make special promises to you, and I will do what I promise. Salvation only comes from the Lord.
So the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah onto dry land. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah the second time, saying,
Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it the message that I tell you.
So Jonah arose and went to Nineveh, according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, a 3-day journey in extent. And Jonah began to enter the city on the first day's walk. Then he cried out and said,
Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown.
So the people of Nineveh believed God, proclaimed a fast, and put on sackcloth, from the greatest to the least of them. Then word came to the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne and laid aside his robe, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published throughout Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying,
Let neither man nor beast, herd or flock taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink water. But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and cry mightily to God. Yes, let everyone turn from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who can tell if God will turn and relent and turn away from his fierce anger, so that we may not perish?
Then God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way. And God relented from the disaster that he had said he would bring upon them, and he did not do it. But it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he became angry. So he prayed to the Lord and said,
Lord, wasn't this what I said when I was still in my country? Therefore I fled previously to Tarshish, for I know that you are a gracious and merciful God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, one who relents from doing harm. Therefore now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live.
Then the Lord said,
Is it right for you to be angry?
So Jonah went out of the city and sat on the east side of the city. There he made himself a shelter and sat under it in the shade, till he might see what would become of the city. And the Lord God prepared a plant and made it come up over Jonah, that it might be shade for his head to deliver him from his misery. So Jonah was very grateful for the plant. But as morning dawned the next day, God prepared a worm, and it so damaged the plant that it withered. And it happened, when the sun arose, that God prepared a vehement east wind, and the sun beat on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. Then he wished death for himself and said,
It is better for me to not be alive than to live.
Then God said to Jonah,
Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?
It is right for me to be angry, even to death.
But the Lord said,
You have had pity on the plant for which you have not labored, nor made it grow, which came up in a night and perished in a night. And should I not pity Nineveh, that great city, in which there are more than 120,000 persons who cannot discern between their right hand and their left, and much livestock?
Obeying God's call can be difficult, but his mercy and love are boundless, even for those we think are beyond redemption.
You know, if you had told me back then, when I was running in the opposite direction, that I'd one day be standing here talking about grace and second chances, I would have laughed or argued. I was good at both, but I ran. I ran from God's voice, his calling. I boarded a ship thinking I could escape the creator of the seas by sailing on them. Foolish, right? But what I learned, first in the storm, then in the belly of that great fish, and finally in the heart of a city I didn't even want to save, is that you can't outrun God's purpose, but more importantly, you can't outrun his mercy. When I was sinking, God heard me. When I was drowning in pride, God corrected me. When I was sitting outside Nineveh, angry that God forgave people I thought didn't deserve it, he still spoke to me, gently, patiently. You see, This story, it's not really about a fish. It's about a father who loves cities full of sinners, a father who chases down stubborn prophets, a father who forgives, restores, and gives another chance, over and over again. I wanted judgment for Nineveh. God wanted mercy. I wanted to write people off. God wanted to write them in. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this. God's mercy is bigger than your mistake. His love runs deeper than your anger. And His calling, well, it's not just about where you're going. It's about who you're becoming. I was Jonah, a runner, a rebel, a reluctant messenger. But I was also chosen, redeemed, used by God, even when I didn't want to be. And if He can use someone like me, He can use someone like you too.
Inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you.
Many years ago, in the land of Canaan, there lived a 17-year-old young boy named Joseph. He wasn't the oldest, the tallest, or the strongest, but he had something special. He had dreams, big dreams. His father, Jacob, loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Now, Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more.
Please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then, behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright, and indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf.
And his brothers said to him,
Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us?
So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said,
Look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me.
So he told it to his father and his brothers. And his father rebuked him and said to him,
What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?
And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Then his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Jacob said to Joseph,
Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them.
So he said to him,
Here I am.
Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me.
So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. Now a certain man found him, and there he was, wandering in the field.
What are you seeking?
I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks.
They have departed from here, for I heard them say, Let's go to Dothan.
So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. Now when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to take his life. Then they said to one another,
Look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, let us now take his life and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, Some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams.
But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said,
Let us not take his life. Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him.
So that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. When Joseph had come to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked. And there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers,
What profit is there if we take our brother's life and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh.
And his brothers listened. Then Midianite traders passed by. So the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. Then Reuben returned to the pit. And indeed, Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brothers and said,
"The lad is no more, and I, where shall I go?"
So they took Joseph's tunic, slew a kid of the goats, and dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said,
"We have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's tunic or not?"
And he recognized it and said,
"It is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces."
Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted. And he said,
"For I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning."
Thus his father wept for him. Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. Then he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had he put under his authority. So it was, from the time that he had made him overseer of his house, and all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. Thus he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he did not know what he had, except for the bread which he ate. Now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph, and she said,
"Come lie with me."
But he refused, and said to his master's wife,
"Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?"
So it was, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not heed her, to lie with her or to be with her. But it happened about this time, when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying,
"Come lie with me."
But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. And so it was, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, that she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying,
"See, he has brought into us a Hebrew to mock us. He came in to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it happened, when he heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me, and fled and went outside."
So she kept his garment with her until his master came home. Then she spoke to him with words like these, saying,
"The Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came in to me to mock me. So it happened, as I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled outside."
So his master got angry and took Joseph and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined.
"Oh, poor Joseph! But he didn't do anything wrong. He is innocent."
But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. It came to pass after these things that the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief butler and the chief baker. So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them. So they were in custody for a while. Then the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt who were confined in the prison, had a dream, both of them, each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with its own interpretation. And Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad. So he asked Pharaoh's officers,
"Why do you look so sad today?"
"We each have had a dream and there is no interpreter of it."
"Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, please."
Then the chief butler told his dream to Joseph.
"Behold, in my dream a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches. It was as though it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. Then Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand."
And Joseph said to him,
"This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Now within 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the former manner, when you were his butler. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done nothing here that they should put me into the dungeon."
When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said to Joseph,
"I also was in my dream, and there were 3 white baskets on my head. In the uppermost basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of the basket on my head."
So Joseph answered and said,
"This is the interpretation of it. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days Pharaoh will lift off your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from you."
Now, on the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast for all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. Then he restored the chief butler to his butlership again, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Then it came to pass, at the end of 2 full years, that Pharaoh had a dream, and behold, he stood by the river. Suddenly there came up out of the river 7 cows, fine-looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them out of the river, ugly and gaunt, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and gaunt cows ate up the 7 fine-looking and fat cows. So Pharaoh awoke. He slept and dreamed a 2nd time. And suddenly 7 heads of grain came up on one stalk, plump and good. Then behold, 7 thin heads, blighted by the east wind, sprang up after them. And the 7 thin heads devoured the 7 plump and full heads. So Pharaoh awoke, and indeed, it was a dream. Now it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them for Pharaoh. Then the chief butler spoke to Pharaoh, saying,
"I remember my faults this day, when Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker. We each had a dream in one night, he and I. Each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. Now there was a young Hebrew man with us there, a servant of the captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to pass, just as he interpreted for us, so it happened. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him."
Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon, and he shaved, changed his clothing, and came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph,
"I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it."
"It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace."
"Behold, in my dream I stood on the bank of the river. Suddenly 7 cows came up out of the river, fine-looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and gaunt, such ugliness as I have never seen in all the land of Egypt. And the gaunt and ugly cows ate up the first 7, the fat cows. When they had eaten them up, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were just as ugly as at the beginning. So I awoke. Also I saw in my dream, and suddenly 7 heads came up on one stalk, full and good. Then behold, 7 heads, withered, thin and blighted by the east wind, sprang up after them. And the thin heads devoured the 7 good heads. So I told this to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me.
The dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. The dreams are one. And the 7 thin and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty heads, blighted by the east wind, are 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. Indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come throughout all the land of Egypt. But after them, 7 years of famine will arise, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. And the famine will deplete the land. So the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following, for it will be very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Then that food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during the famine.
So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants,
Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God?
Then Pharaoh said to Joseph,
Inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you. See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt.
Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. And he clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the 2nd chariot which he had. And they cried out before him, Bow the knee. So he set him over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh also said to Joseph,
I am Pharaoh, and without your consent, no man may lift his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt.
And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paaneah, and he gave him as a wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. So Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now, in the 7 plentiful years, the ground brought forth abundantly. So he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. He laid up in every city the food of the fields which surrounded them. Joseph gathered very much grain, as the sand of the sea, until he stopped counting, for it was immeasurable. And to Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Then the 7 years of plenty which were in the land of Egypt ended, and the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said. The famine was in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. So when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Then Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians,
Go to Joseph, whatever he says to you, do.
The famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians. And the famine became severe in the land of Egypt. So all countries came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain, because the famine was severe in all lands. When Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons,
Why do you look at one another? Indeed, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down to that place and buy for us there, that we may live and not lose our lives."
So Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said,
"Lest some calamity befall him."
Now Joseph was governor over the land, and it was he who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the earth. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he acted as a stranger to them and spoke roughly to them.
"Where do you come from?"
"From the land of Canaan to buy food."
Then Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about them and said to them,
"You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land."
"No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all one man's sons. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies."
"No, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land."
"Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And in fact, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more."
"It is as I spoke to you, saying, 'You are spies.' In this manner you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother, and you shall be kept in prison, that your words may be tested to see whether there is any truth in you. Or else, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies."
So he put them all together in prison 3 days. Then Joseph said to them the third day,
"Do this and live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be confined to your prison house. But you, go and carry grain for the famine of your houses, and bring your youngest brother to me. So your words will be verified, and you shall not lose your life."
And they did so. Then they said to one another,
"We are truly guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and we would not hear. Therefore, this distress has come upon us."
And Reuben answered them, saying,
"Did I not speak to you, saying, 'Do not sin against the boy,' and you would not listen? Therefore, behold, his blood is now required of us."
But they did not know that Joseph understood them, for he spoke to them through an interpreter. And he turned himself away from them and wept. Then he returned to them again and talked with them. And he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph gave a command to fill their sacks with grain, to restore every man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. So they loaded their donkeys with the grain and departed from there. But as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey feed at the encampment, he saw his money, and there it was in the mouth of his sack. So he said to his brothers,
"My money has been restored, and there it is in my sack."
Then their hearts failed them, and they were afraid, saying to one another, "What is this that God has done to us?" Then they went to Jacob, their father in the land of Canaan, and told him all that had happened to them. Then it happened as they emptied their sacks, that surprisingly, each man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said to them,
"You have bereaved me. Joseph is no more, Simeon is no more, and you want to take Benjamin. All these things are against me."
Then Reuben spoke to his father, saying,
"Take the life of my 2 sons, if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you."
Now the famine was severe in the land. And it came to pass, when they had eaten up the grain, which they had brought from Egypt, that their father said to them,
"Go back, buy us a little food."
But Judah spoke to him, saying,
"The man solemnly warned us, saying, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.'"
"Why did you deal so wrongfully with me as to tell the man whether you had still another brother?"
The man asked us pointedly about ourselves and our family, saying, "Is your father still alive? Have you another brother?" And we told him according to these words. Could we possibly have known that he would say, "Bring your brother down"?
Then Judah said to Israel his father,
"Send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not lose our lives, both we and you, and also our little ones. I myself will be surety for him. From my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. For if we had not lingered, surely by now we would have returned this second time.
If it must be so, then do this. Take some of the best fruits of the land in your vessels and carry down a present for the man. A little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, pistachio nuts and almonds. Take double money in your hand, and take back in your hand the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was an oversight. Take your brother also, and arise. Go back to the man. And may God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may release your other brother and Benjamin. If I am bereaved, I am bereaved.
So the men took that present and Benjamin, and they took double money in their hand, and arose and went down to Egypt. And they stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house,
"Take these men to my home, and slaughter an animal and make ready, for these men will dine with me at noon."
Then the man did as Joseph ordered, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. Now the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said,
"It is because of the money which was returned in our sacks the first time that we are brought in, so that he may make a case against us and seize us, to take us as slaves with our donkeys."
When they drew near to the steward of Joseph's house, they talked with him at the door of the house and said,
"O sir, we indeed came down the first time to buy food. But it happened when we came to the encampment that we opened our sacks, and there each man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight. So we have brought it back in our hand. And we have brought down other money in our hands to buy food. We do not know who put our money in our sacks."
But he said,
"Peace be with you. Do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money."
Then he brought Simeon out to them. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed down before him to the earth. Then he asked them about their well-being and said,
"Is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive?"
And they answered, "Your servant our father's in good health. He is still alive." And they bowed their heads down and prostrated themselves. Then he lifted his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said,
"Is this your younger brother of whom you spoke to me? God be gracious to you, my son."
Now his heart yearned for his brother. So Joseph made haste and sought somewhere to weep. And he went into his chamber and wept there. Then he washed his face and came out, and he restrained himself and said,
"Serve the bread."
So he dined with them, but Joseph had one more test. Joseph had his silver cup hidden in Benjamin's sack. The next morning, while they returned to Canaan, the brothers were stopped, searched, and when the cup was found, everything shattered. The culprit had to become a slave. But something powerful happened. Judah, who once led the charge to sell Joseph, stepped forward, not to accuse, not to escape, but he pleaded,
"Take me instead. Let me bear the punishment. Just don't take the boy. If Benjamin doesn't come back, it will destroy our father."
That was it. Joseph couldn't hold back anymore. In a burst of raw emotion, he sent out the Egyptians and broke down in tears.
"I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?"
The brothers were in shock and felt much guilt. But Joseph reassured them,
"Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves for selling me. It was God who sent me ahead of you to save lives."
He hugged them, wept with them, and forgave them. Then he said, "Go. Tell my father I'm alive. Bring him here quickly." And Pharaoh, pleased with Joseph's reunion, offered wagons, supplies, and the best of Egypt for their family. When Jacob heard the news, he could hardly believe it.
"Joseph, my son, is still alive? I will go and see him before I leave this earth."
On the journey, God spoke to him at Beersheba.
"Don't be afraid to go down to Egypt. I will go with you."
And so Israel gathered his entire family and moved to Egypt. Then, when Joseph saw his father, he ran into Jacob's arms. He hugged him tight and wept for a long time.
"Now I can go in peace because I've seen your face again."
Joseph settled the family in Goshen, gave them land, food, and protection. And when Jacob stood before Pharaoh, an old man leaning on his staff, he did something unexpected. He blessed the king of Egypt. And just like that, the family of Israel was preserved in a foreign land, not by power, not by revenge, but by forgiveness, grace, and the quiet working of God's plan behind the scenes.
My friends, as we close this powerful story, let's not just applaud Joseph's rise to greatness. Let's remember how he got there. He was Jacob's beloved son, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and forgotten in prison. But through it all, God was with him. Joseph's life teaches us that the path to purpose isn't always straight. Sometimes it winds through pain, betrayal, and waiting. But if we stay faithful like Joseph, even in the dark, God can turn our suffering into salvation, not just for us, but for others. Joseph forgave, Joseph trusted, and Joseph rose because God never left him. So when life feels unfair or your dreams feel far away, remember this story. God is still writing your ending. And like Joseph, it will be worth the wait.
Many years ago, in the days when King Saul ruled, the Israelites were at war with the Philistines. Now the Philistines gathered their armies together to battle and were gathered at Socho, which belongs to Judah. They encamped between Socho and Azekah in Ephes-Dammim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together, and they encamped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in battle array against the Philistines. The Philistines stood on a mountain on one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, with a valley between them. And a champion went out from the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath, from Gath, whose height was over 9 feet. He had a bronze helmet on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. And he had bronze armor on his legs and a bronze javelin between his shoulders. Now the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his iron spearhead weighed 600 shekels, and a shield-bearer went before him. Then he stood and cried out to the armies of Israel and said to them,
Why have you come out to line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And you, the servants of Saul, choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and slay me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and slay him, then you shall be our servants and serve us. I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together.
When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and who had 8 sons. And the man was old, advanced in years. The 3 oldest sons of Jesse had gone to follow Saul to the battle. The names of his 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab the firstborn, next to him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest, and the 3 oldest followed Saul. But David occasionally went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistine drew near and presented himself 40 days, morning and evening.
I defy the armies of Israel this day.
Then Jesse said to his son David,
Take now for your brothers an ephah of this dried grain and these 10 loaves, and run to your brothers at the camp, and carry these 10 cheeses to the captain of their 1,000, and see how your brothers fare, and bring back news of them.
So David rose early in the morning, left the sheep with a keeper, and took the things and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the camp as the army was going out to the fight and shouting for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had drawn up in battle array, army against army. And David left his supplies in the hand of the supply keeper, ran to the army, and came and greeted his brothers. Then, as he talked with them, There was the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, coming up from the armies of the Philistines, and he spoke according to the same words.
I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together.
So David heard them.
I defy the armies of Israel this day.
And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were dreadfully afraid. So the men of Israel said,
Have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. And it shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich with great riches, will give him his daughter, and give his father's house exemption from taxes in Israel.
Then David spoke to the men who stood by him, saying,
What shall be done for the man who slays this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God?
And the people answered him. Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was aroused against David.
Why did you come down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the insolence of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle.
What have I done now? Is there not a cause?
Then he turned from him toward another, and said the same thing. And these people answered him as the first ones did. Now when the words which David spoke were heard, they reported them to Saul, and he sent for him. Then David said to Saul,
Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine.
And Saul said to David,
You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are a youth, and he was a man of war from his youth.
Your servant used to keep his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and struck it, and delivered the lamb from its mouth. And when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard, and struck and killed it. Your servant has killed both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord, who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine.
Go, and the Lord be with you.
So Saul clothed David with his armor, and he put a bronze helmet on his head. David fastened his sword to his armor and tried to walk, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul,
I cannot walk with these, for I have not tested them.
So David took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag, in a pouch which he had, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. So the Philistine came, and began drawing near to David. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was only a youth. So the Philistine said to David,
Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?
And the Philistine cursed David by his gods.
Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field.
You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Then all this assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands.
So it was, when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hurried and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. Then David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone. And he slung it and struck the Philistine in his forehead, so that the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the earth. But there was no sword in the hand of David, Therefore David ran and stood over the Philistine, took his sword, and drew it out of its sheath and killed him, and cut off his head with it.
I didn't raise a hero. I raised a boy who loved his God, and God made him a hero. If you remember anything from today, remember this. It's not the size of the stone. It's the strength of the Spirit behind it. And no heart is too small when it belongs fully to God.
Little man, what you doing here? Makes me laugh, makes me sneer. You're just food for my spear. Every day I stand so tall, watch them run, watch them crawl. All these warriors, big and small, never saw one who wouldn't fall. Never saw it coming, no. Never saw it coming, bro. Think you're brave? Well, let me know when you're ready for the show. Never saw it coming, never saw it fall. Never thought a shepherd boy could shake my wall. Never saw it coming, never thought I'd see such a tiny fighter stepping up to me. Never saw it coming, never saw it coming. My armor weighs more than you. Every step I take is true. Got an army backing me. Why you stand there, 1, 2, 3? Never saw it coming, right? Never saw it coming, fight. Gonna learn about my might. Gonna end this here tonight. Wait, what's that in your hand? Just a slinger coming in. Gonna learn about my mind. Gonna end this here tonight. Wait, what's that in your hand? Just a sling and just a stone. Something in your eyes, man, got me shook down to my bones. Never saw it coming. Look at this little shepherd thinking he can take me down. Got my bronze and iron suit, wearing victory like a crown. 9 feet tall and built for war, been fighting since my youth. But something in the way you move is speaking truth. Your God's got you feeling bold, I see it in your stance. While my God stays silent, you're taking your chance. One stone's all it took to make a giant understand. Sometimes the biggest fall comes from the smallest. Never saw it coming, never saw it fall. Never thought a shepherd boy could shake my wall. Never saw it coming, never thought I'd see the end of all my pride come straight for me. Never saw it coming. Little man, you taught me well. Little man, you taught me well. Got a story I can tell. My height down to the ground. Never heard a sweeter sound. Well, I hear you've been talking big, making threats and putting on your show. But from down here where I'm standing, you're just compensating, don't you know? They all ran when you appeared, but I see right through your game. Got my sling and got my courage, and I'm calling out your name. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. That's what they say, and I believe it all. You can tower above the world below, but pride comes before the overthrow. Oh, the overthrow. But what's beneath that metal shell? A heart that's pumping fear and doubt, more than any man can tell. Got no sword and got no shield, just what I need to get this done. Sometimes victory's hiding in the places others run. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. That's what they say, and I believe it all. You can tower above the world below, but pride comes before the overthrow. Size ain't everything, truth be told. Sometimes the smallest stone can break the tallest hole. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. That's what they say, and I believe it all. You can tower above the world below, don't slow the overthrow. Watch you overthrow. Rushing far away, sailing ships in salty spray, far from what I'm meant to be, far from what he planned for me. How far can you go? How far can you run? When love wants to show what must be done. Bigger than any fish in the sea. Is in love, bigger than oceans, bigger than me. How deep is in love? No matter where you run, no matter where you roam, His love will find you and bring you home. Bring you home. The weather and the sea. How big? How old? Ooh, bigger than stormy swirling waves so high, fish appears from down below. 3 days learning to let go, learn what I need to know. God's love, God's love, higher than the heavens above. God's love, God's love, seas below. How big is His love? Bigger than oceans, bigger than me. How deep is His love? No matter where you run, no matter where you roam, His love will find you and bring your His love is bigger, much bigger than any fish in the sea. How big can it be? His love will find you and bring you home to me. Back home to me. Home to me.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share.